All right. Welcome, everyone. We're very excited to have you here. I hope your spring is going really well. We're going to go over a few things for continuing students just to keep you guys apprised of what things you'll need to do, what you can do now, including that pre-registration is open for fall. But we're going to go over a couple of things today about how your funding works, what to prepare for, some key information about registration for both summer and fall. A reminder on how the disbursement process works and what could be a hang up in case you haven't got everything together. And then hopefully we'll have a little time for question and answer as well. If you do have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and put those in the chat or the Q&A, and my colleagues who are online will also be here to answer those as we go through the session. Just a brief overview for those of you who are joining us. We do have at GSAS a financial aid liaison for every department. So I wanted to first mention that you can reach out directly to who is your liaison, and I've linked to that list. My name is Kate Jenkins. I'm the Senior Associate Director in GSAS Financial Aid. And then my colleagues, Director Tom Tarduano and Sandra Peters, are also on. So take a look at that. For those of you who may be joining us as PhDs from either Sustainable Development or GSAT, please note that you should reach out to your financial aid offices for additional questions. We're going to go over generally how the funding works and what's your responsibility. And we'll also talk again about registration, including the enrollment categories that students need to select in order to get their registration fully activated for every semester. I'm going to briefly go over summer enrollment in case you are enrolling this summer or thinking about enrolling this summer. And for our 12-month natural science students, you will be either enrolled or not, and we're going to go over what makes that distinction. Again, briefly touch on how the funding disbursement process works and what are some of the hangups that would prevent your funding from going through in the fall, and then some next steps for you to take, as well as a brief question answer section. So just to overview, for U.S. citizens and permanent residents, for all PhDs in GSAS, your tuition and fees are covered during your funding eligible years, guaranteed funding years rather, and those are adjusted each year as tuition and fees adjust in order to cover you fully. Additionally, you do receive funding for living expenses, and that's through two different means. Either through an academic year stipend, which if you're a U.S. citizen and permanent resident, that is a lump sum fund each semester at the beginning of the semester, and there are no tax withholdings on that. Now, that does not mean that it's not necessarily taxable income, so take a look at the information we have on our tax information website for that. Or you may be appointed in a teaching appointment where you will be paid by salary, which is semi-monthly and subject to tax withholdings. If in the social sciences and humanities in your first year, you were on a stipend, most of you in your second year will transition to being on an appointment. And so there are some extra steps that you would take as your funding changes from that lump sum stipend funding to a salary funding. Now, if you were on an external award, you would have continued to receive stipend funding. So note that while this is the general path, there may be times where you would be receiving a stipend. Again, if, for example, you were on an external fellowship or if you are on your dissertation fellowship year. But most funding for second year and third year students is going to be through salary because you'll be appointed for teaching. In addition to your academic year funding, you're also guaranteed 5 funded summers, beginning with the summer following your first year. And that is issued as a stipend. Again, for U.S. citizens and permanent residents, that stipend has no tax withholdings, but may still be considered taxable income for you. Summer stipend processing is expected to start a little bit later this month, and funds will begin to reach students in May, typically. We'll have a little bit more information about summer stipends as we go through, but just as sort of generalization, we're going to start those processing those a little bit later this month, and the funds will start to reach you sometime in early to mid-May. And there's some information, more detailed information about your funding if you wanted to take a look at that on the website that's listed at the bottom of this page. Now, for our international students, again, tuition and fees also covered, same sort of protocol while you're in your guaranteed funding years. For your living expenses, unless you have a tax treaty, your stipend would be subject to tax withholdings. Teaching, when you're on appointment and you're paid by salary, you are subject, of course, to tax withholdings as well. And then for your summer stipend as well, unless you have a tax treaty, then you would also be subject to tax withholdings on that summer stipend. Now, one of the things that I want to mention for our international students is that if you have a change in your residency or citizenship status, that could cause delays or incorrect withholdings. So we want you to make sure to reach out in advance, either while you're applying or while you're in the process of changing your citizenship status or residency status. Reach out to your financial aid liaison so that they can connect you with the appropriate person within the university system to update your tax withholdings should that change. And again, for you guys as well, just take a look at that page if you want a little bit more detail on your fellowship information. Here's also links to other more detailed information about the support that you're eligible to receive. Again, as a reminder, those of you who are in sustainable development or GSAP, you should be reaching out to your dedicated financial aid offices. Now, beyond the funding that you receive, there are charges that will be assessed on your student account for which you are responsible for making payment. And the first and the one that we see most frequently sort of cause difficulty is rent. Make sure that you are making payment of your rent on a monthly basis. You will be billed from your student account on a monthly basis if you're in university housing. And this delays in payment and back due rent can cause a hold on your account. So just make sure that you are still on top of that. Remember, even though you're fully funded, you still do need to make payment on your account for some of these charges, including every semester, you would likely have a $45 student activities fee. For your first semester, you had a $105 document fee. So if you have a small balance right now, look back to the fall if you're a first year student and see that you had these two charges, which could be adding up and creating late fees if you didn't make any payment for these in the fall. Now, because it's a small balance, it wouldn't have prevented you from registering in the spring, but it will continue to accrue late fees on any of these fees that you have as a small balance. The other thing that you should be aware of is that if you register for a language course or some other courses that have a fee associated with them, those are also your responsibility. And so make sure that if you are taking a language class or another class that may have a course fee associated with it, that you're taking care of that as well. And if you miss pre-registration, which none of you guys are going to miss it, but if you end up registering late in a semester, there is a $100 late registration fee, and that is not covered by GSAS. Additionally, late payment fees for any of these other balances that you have, again, if it's related to something that's not covered, like your rent or other student activities fee or the document fee, that late fee is also your responsibility. The late fees are assessed and managed by Student Financial Services, so GSAS financial aid cannot waive those late fees. You can request a waiver of the late fees. There is an option for a one-time courtesy late fee waiver if you've never had a late fee in the past, and you can reach out to the Student Service Center at columbia.edu, which is SSC, Student Service Center at columbia.edu, if you have a late fee and you'd like to request a waiver. Additionally, in the event that you withdraw from the university, there is a $75 fee assessed for that, which would also be your responsibility. Now, here's the main reason that we wanted to get you guys on today, and that's to ensure that you know that this week pre-registration is open for the fall. You can also register for the summer, and we're going to talk about summer registration in another minute. But you can register now for the enrollment category, even if you don't know if you're going to take or you expect that you're not going to take any classes. You have to register for an enrollment category every semester that you are here until you complete your degree. So in your first 6 semesters, because for the PhD, you are required to have a total of 6 full residence units, the first 6 semesters that you're enrolled, you're going to be registering for this full RU. So if you are first year through 3rd year student, The RU is the course that you're registering for in terms of an enrollment category. It's what you would have been registered for this year in both fall and spring. I've already placed the call number in there because, again, while you're on this session, you can hop on over to SSOL, which will redirect you to Virgil, and then you can register for that full residence unit. Pre-registration for fall is this week, Monday through Friday. Now, if you are beyond that, typically in your 4th year, and you've already completed and registered for 6 full residence units, then it sort of depends on what type of funding you have. So if, for example, you're a 4th year student and you are going to be on a teaching appointment, you would register for the extended residence, and the call number is there for you as well. Additionally, if you were registering for a course, you would be in this extended residence unit. For those of you who are just continuing on, you've completed all of your required teaching and you're going to be maybe on a dissertation fellowship, or you're just registering to complete some of your dissertation coursework or work, then you would be registered for matriculation and facilities. Additionally, for some of you, if you are on an external award and you are away, you would likely be registered for M&F for that semester as well. But again, every semester that you are here, until you have completed, and then up and until probably the last semester where you are completing your degree, you will need to be enrolled in one of these enrollment categories. Now, the registration category, this enrollment category, is what drives your tuition and fees. So if you register for courses for the fall during pre-registration this week, but fail to register for the enrollment category, you won't have tuition and fees. You won't be an active student according to the university until you have this registration category. So you probably heard us if you came to the sessions as an entering student. This is one of the things that we take a lot of time to explain, just because it's a little bit unusual. But again, your tuition and fees are generated by this. Your health insurance enrollment is generated by this. So make sure that while you have a low balance or zero balance right now and no holds on your account, you take advantage of the pre-registration period to get the enrollment category set up for you for the fall so that there are no delays in your funding caused by a lack of registration. Now, as I mentioned that we were going to talk about summer. You are eligible to take a course in the School of Professional Studies during the summer. The course must be required for the completion of your degree. You have to take it for credit, and you have to also be a funded student in the fall, the upcoming fall. So if you will be taking a leave of absence in the fall, you would not be eligible for summer coverage. And in fact, if you took that and then were on a leave for the fall, we would have to take back that funding. So just make sure that you take a look if you're thinking about taking a summer course and you're in the social sciences or humanities, that you take a look at the information about eligibility for summer session. If you have questions about that, certainly you should be in touch with your department, but also you can be in touch with your financial aid liaison, who can coordinate with your department to ensure that what you are thinking about taking is eligible and that you understand if you will have any responsibility during the summer. Again, this is typically something where we see students who are in their 1st year or 2nd year who are trying to complete some language requirements that are for their degree, that we see them enrolling in the summer. For those of you who are in the 12-month natural sciences departments, if you are going to be appointed as a GRA during the summer, then it is required that you register for the full-time summer research category. And there's the call number for that. Now, registration for the summer for this has to happen no later than Friday, May 17th. Otherwise, you will be subject to that $100 late registration fee, and that will be your responsibility. So if you are a 12-month natural sciences student who's going to be appointed as a GRA over the summer, please be sure that during this week pre-registration, you get online and register for that summer full-time summer research appointment. And if you are a 12-month natural sciences student and you are funded by an external award or a training grant, then you do not register for the summer. So if you're not clear about that, I would reach out to your department to confirm, or you can reach out to Tom Torduano, who oversees the natural sciences departments, but he'll be sending out some follow-up to you as well. Just be sure that while you have this opportunity, get online and register for the summer if, again, you're being appointed as a graduate research assistant. And very briefly, as we look at what the stipend disbursement process is, and again, for many of you, this will be familiar and you'll have already received stipends for this in your first year. But if you are a U.S. citizen and permanent resident, there are a couple of things that you need to make sure stay on your account. That you have a local address on file is required. And we strongly encourage you to make sure that that local address is current and up to date, and that all of the addresses that you have in SSOL are current and up to date in the event that anything is ever mailed to you. Now, of course, most of you should already have direct deposit set up. This is a reminder that if you have changed any of your account information, it's important that you go and update the direct deposit sign up through SSOL for any stipends and through the PAC system, which we'll get to in just a minute, for any changes to your direct deposit there. The university has multiple places right now where direct deposit is processed. So if you are receiving a stipend, it's the direct deposit that you see via SSOL. If you are receiving a paycheck, it is a separate direct deposit that is through the university's PAC system, people at Columbia. And for that, there's a little bit of a timing issue, not issue, but there's a timing of when you can change and update your direct deposit information, which will be sending out some notifications over the summer when those changes are happening. But we're working currently with Student Financial Services and Human Resources about kind of coordinating to have the direct deposit as a one-stop shop, but that's still in progress. So be aware that you will need to make sure that your direct deposit information is up to date. If you were a student who was on appointment this current year and you signed up for direct deposit through the people at Columbia system as part of HR and you were receiving your salary via direct deposit, chances are that you are going to have to re-enroll in direct deposit in order to have that active for next year. So if you were appointed again for fall and spring of 23-24 and will be appointed again next year, that direct deposit isn't going to carry over. In the stipend process, it does, but for the payroll process, there is another reactivation that has to happen before the fall. And again, we'll talk about that again in a minute, but basically, if you have your local address on file, you have your direct deposit set up and you're registered in an enrollment category and you don't have any holds, meaning you don't have a balance that's past due or other holds that may have been assessed on your account during the year, your funds should then move to the student account, your tuition and fees would be covered. Your stipend is then transferred to accounts payable for processing and then issued via direct deposit, which all of you should have, usually within 3 to 5 days after it's transferred to accounts payable. Now, the number one reason why this process stops dead in its tracks is, again, that you don't have an enrollment category. So make sure that you're signing up for the RU or ER or M&F, depending on the funding source that you have in advance of the semester, which again, this semester, or for the fall semester, you can sign up this week. For our international students, there are a couple more things that you need to be aware of in order to ensure that your funding moves smoothly through the process. And that is, in SSOL, you must have both your local address, which should be your New York City address, as well as your permanent address, which should be a foreign address. Please do not remove or change your permanent address from your foreign address. Your permanent address should remain as your foreign address unless you have a change in your residency status to become a permanent resident of the United States or a citizen of the United States. If you remain an international student, you must maintain a foreign permanent address in SSOL. So if you've gone and changed that because now you feel like your permanent address should be your New York City address, please be sure to go back and update that so that it reflects your home country residency. If you have any questions, or again, if you're in the process of changing your residency or citizenship status, this is a cause for delaying of your funds. Or a cause for the funds to have tax withholdings when they shouldn't, or an inappropriate amount of tax withholdings. So be sure to reach out to your financial aid liaison in the event that you are in the process of or are looking to make a change in your residency or citizenship status. And just like our US citizens and permanent residents, you can't have any holds on your account. So just make sure that you have cleared up any balances. Again, because of where we are at the time of year now, most of you don't have holds on your account. And so you should be able to go in this week and do the pre-registration for the fall. Again, same as with our US citizens, the number one reason that your funds don't move through the process is because there is no enrollment category. So if you register for courses, that's great. You still need that enrollment category. If you're in your first 3 years, then you're going to be registering for the RU, which is what you registered for this year. And if you are beyond that in your 4th year and you're unsure of what your appointment would be or what your funding is going to be next year, then feel free to reach out to your department. Your DAF will have information about that, or you can reach out to your financial aid liaison and they will be able to guide you to what your registration should be. For our international students, the direct deposit process for all purposes, because there are potential tax withholdings, the direct deposit that you enroll in is through the People at Columbia PAC information. So your funds come to your student account and then they are transferred to the payroll team for that tax withholding. Processing in payroll is semi-monthly, and so it's not a specific 3 to 5 days, but it is generally 3 to 5 days from the time that payroll processes for your direct deposit, which is the same as with our US citizens. We're hoping that all of you will be able to avoid any paper check issues because those can take, again, longer time. If there wasn't a correct address on file, then the paper check gets mailed to whatever local address you did have on file. So again, make sure you're going into SSOL and updating that information. And for your next steps, right now, pre-registration is opening. It ends Friday, so you can log on anytime this week to register for your fall enrollment category. It will reopen again in June, but if you're in the natural sciences, you should be registering for the summer now. If you are not in the natural sciences, or if you are, you should be registering for fall. There's no reason for you to wait until June. And because you can always withdraw or whatever needs to happen or make a change as you go through this process. But again, without that enrollment category, nothing's going to move forward for you for the fall. So be sure you get in sometime this week and add that enrollment category just so that you're ahead of the game. If you are receiving an external award, congratulations. External fellowships are fantastic, but you need to make sure that you reach out to both your department and financial aid if you're receiving external awards so that we can ensure that your funding is reflected appropriately for the next year. For students who are appointed and receiving an external award, any supplemental funds are done through a stipend and not through payroll. And so again, it's imperative that if you receive an external award, as soon as you know about that, to reach out to both your department and financial aid so that we can coordinate and make sure that your funding is reflected appropriately. Again, beware of any holds that you have on your account. The biggest drawback to those who wait until June to do pre-registration is that you're going to continue to have rent charges. And as I mentioned before, summer stipends will start to go out sometime in mid-May. But in the event that you have a past due balance that you are trying to catch up on, if you have a hold on your account, you will not be able to register. And, you know, we're trying to get you to be ahead of this so that there are no delays come fall. So look at your account, see if you have holds. If you do, make sure that you're resolving those so that you can continue with the registration process. Again, you can also review and update or enroll if for some reason you did not enroll this year in direct deposit. As a reminder, it does have to be a US bank account, and you can find both options for direct deposit at this website. As I mentioned before, our office is currently working with Student Financial Services, who oversees the accounts payable portion of this, of your payments, the stipend payments, as well as Human Resources, who oversee the payroll as well as international stipend processing to create a one-stop shop for direct deposit. That's not currently available. So again, log on here, take a look, sign up for direct deposit through these portals. And as we are approaching the fall, we will be sort of reviewing to see who has enrolled and who hasn't in order to send out reminders and prompts to get you enrolled for the appropriate direct deposit. If you are going to be appointed in a teaching position for the fall, the I-9 form is the biggest drawback or the biggest stop function after the enrollment category in terms of making sure that your appointment and your funds can go through. So if you're going to be appointed, reach out to your DAF. You can get a sense of when this process is really going to start. It will begin in earnest next month in May. But certainly if you have questions about what will be expected of you, and there may be some things that you can do now, reach out to your DAF to get sort of information on what your next steps are for your appointment. And that is all that we have for today. So hopefully if you have any questions, we'll be able to address those. I do see that we have, thank you, that someone was answering. The session is going to be shared, as well as we're going to try and put it up on the website so that we can just have you guys link to it for the rest of the semester. That's sort of all that we have today. So thank you for joining us. We'll stay on for a few minutes just to answer questions. If any more questions are coming through. All right. Get out there and do your pre-registration for fall. If you are registering for summer, you can do that as well. And again, if you're appointed as a GRA in the natural sciences, make sure that you get your registration in before May 17th, because after that date, you'll have a $100 late registration fee.
Hey, sorry, I have a quick question.
Sure.
I may have missed it and I'm sorry. Will this be sent to the students again?
Yes, we're going to send this out probably in the next couple of days.
Okay, because I noticed none of my students are here, not one. So I'm not sure if they got the initial email with the save the date.
Yeah, it went out through communications to all current students.
Okay, thanks. We'll look for it and just, push it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Well, if there are no more questions, thank you guys so much. Tom, you can stop the recording.